911. What are you? That's me! That's me! That's me!
Whoa, 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 everybody. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's real vile time, babies. And we're going to get real vile tonight. And of course, you got me. I'm the G to the E to the R to the M. The T stands for the, but you already knew that. And we're about to rip it up in a modern way. So it's got to be Mr. Germ T Ripper. And we've got our my lovely co-host, the Tower of the Hour, the Princess of Power, the Killer Kelli Miller. Killer Kelli Miller. Tell the people what's really going on.
What is really going on, people of Real Violand?
Real Violand indeed. And of course, we got the Prime Minister, the Sinister, Mr. Ruthless Chris. Ruthless Chris. Hey, what you been up to, baby?
What have I been up to? Well, we went to a wild game dinner the other day, and I ate stuff like muskrat and moose balls and deer tacos and all kinds of other wild shit. That was a lot of fun. I went to Circle 6 Sunday night at Harpo's in Detroit. That was a blast. Got to see some of the homies there, workers, and some of our crew and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing that. Yesterday and today, I just kind of been recovering. I haven't been feeling very well. Feel much better today, but I kind of think I had like a little bit of a bug, kind of most through yesterday and like halfway through today. So I babied myself, did some laundry, watched some movies.
Fair enough. Did you put some baby powder on your tushy?
I did not, but maybe I should have.
Maybe, baby. How about you, Killer Kelli? What's new and exciting in the world of the Killer?
Oh, not a whole lot that's new and exciting since the last time. As Chris said, we went to a wild game dinner. Something my dad gets tickets to every year. And yes, they were moose balls, but they were not moose testicles. Let me clarify that. They were
no, they were like meatballs made of moose.
Meatballs.
They were like
very good
style meatballs, but moose.
Yes.
They had like raccoon and all kinds of other shit.
I didn't eat the raccoon or muskrat.
I ate everything.
I've been to this thing enough times to know what I like and what I don't like. And raccoon and muskrat are things I do not like.
I ate it all.
But other than that, no, I didn't do a whole lot. This week I watched a whole bunch of Giallo movies because our feature movie of the night got me started on that. I was like, wow, I love this. Why don't I watch more of this? So I was doing that. Although I'm only going to talk about one other one tonight. But still.
Fair enough. And speaking of our feature presentation, we're going to be talking mainly about the 1977 Lucio Fulci, the Maestro's feature giallo, The Psychic. Ooh la la, I can't wait to dig into that. But in the meantime, let's talk about what else we've been watching. Let's kick us off with Ruthless Chris. What have you been watching, baby?
I'll start with the low boy on the totem pole. I knew this was gonna come. When something ends up getting so large, a million copycats are gonna come. And I have encountered my first Art the Clown ripoff film. I could not believe how hard they jocked Terrifier and Terrifier 2 to the point where they recreated several scenes, but with this time with a scarecrow instead of a clown.
Oh.
He acted like Art. He looked like a scarecrow version of Art. They try to do the crazy over the top gore, with no budget like they did for Terrifier, and this thing was just a slog. It was called Die-ced, DIE:CED. This is a Tubi original. There's like an online horror community I'm part of, and I'm starting to realize I just need to leave there because I'm starting to realize that a bunch of people that like are behind some of these films are in there just putting up fake reviews of stuff. And, kudos to them for trying to market their shit, but I've fallen for a couple now. This one was rough. It was 58 minutes long. That was the good part. So it's not even really a movie. It was a period piece, which I commended them on that because they did somehow make it an 80s film with no money. But aside from that, this thing was awful. What you have is starts off. You have a nurse getting in her mini bug in an alleyway, and then another nurse comes out and like, which patients did you release today? And she says the name. She's like, you let out the wrong one. That guy is a serial killer with the mind of a child. That set up the whole movie. And then you have a brother and sister who look identical to the actors from Terrifier 2, getting ready to go to a Halloween party. This takes place on Halloween. Instead of dressed like a Valkyrie, she's dressed as a huntswoman. He's even got the glasses and everything. And then they went and they ripped off the scene from the first one where they're sitting at the pizzeria and Art's just there kind of clowning around and like, who's that weird guy? They did that, but this wasn't a pizzeria. It was a sandwich shop. Then they go to the party, just like in Terrifier. It's super gory. There's 2 or 3 effects that actually looked really good. The rest of it was dog shit. I was mad by the end of this. Like, this was like, remember when Hostel got really big and then we had that just tidal wave of murder porn for a while? And it was like, well, Hostel was cool for what it was because that wasn't really going on. And then we got way too much of it. I have a feeling this is going to be like the first of many Terrifier clones. I hated it. I gave it 1.5. And the reason I gave it 1.5 was the Scarecrow actually looked kind of cool. And every once in a while, they pulled off a cool looking shot or a good special effect. But also they did like really weird shit where you could tell they filmed it on a different camera. And then they had to stretch the aspect ratio. So like one scene will be like super stretched and the next scene will look good. It's fuck that movie. Die-ced 1.5 on Tubi. Don't bother. Eat shit. The worst part is they even stole the fonts and like layout. Like how Terrifier was in that red font. They used the red font. They used the same fucking like lettering and fonts for the intro. It was just fuck that movie. No, I didn't like it.
Well, Ruthless Chris, I salute you and say thank you for watching one so we don't have to. That one's called Die-ced. He gives it 1.5 stars. Kelly, I'm guessing you haven't seen Die-ced?
No, I have not. I think I've seen it suggested on Tubi and like read the description. It was like, meh, pass.
Fair enough. As much as I love the first Terrifier movie, I dislike the second one almost as much. So I think I will pass on it as well. 1.5 on Tubi. Sounds like if you want to damage your eyeballs, you can watch it. But Chris watched it, so you don't have to. On to the next one before we get to the psychic. Killer Kelly, what you got for us, baby?
I'm going to start off with my weakest link of the bunch this week, which actually wasn't terrible. It was average. I feel like they were trying to do a Speak No Evil thing in a way, because this was still kind of bleak, but it wasn't half as like, holy shit, is that one, This one is Coming Home in the Dark, 2021. It's on Netflix. A school teacher, he takes his family out. Well, the IMDb description basically just says, a school teacher is forced to confront a brutal act from his past when a pair of ruthless drifters take him and his family on a nightmare of a road trip. His whole family doesn't make it on that road trip. Basically, this school teacher, he takes his family out for a picnic, and like it's just seemingly out of nowhere, these 2 strangers come up and start like harassing them, and some fucking real bad shit goes down, and he, takes them with him. Come to find out, these 2 strangers are very related to this school teacher's past. The school teacher used to work at a place and did some kind of shitty shit. And without telling you too much, basically it's him after he gets kidnapped. His story is unfolding throughout the movie, what he actually did, and you're starting feeling less and less sorry for this guy, like, well, yeah, you kind of fucking deserve that, and the whole thing's pretty bleak. It ends pretty bleak. It starts really bleak. It was decent. I gave it a 3. I don't think it's amazing, but it's worth a watch.
Yeah, what was this called again? Where is it streaming?
Coming Home in the Dark on Netflix.
Coming Home in the Dark on Netflix, 3 stars.
Yeah.
It does sound interesting, and I mean, if you're comparing it to Speak No Evil,
it would be like a diet Speak No Evil. If you're gonna pick one of the 2, go Speak No Evil all day. But
But
It's
if you've
kinda,
already seen Speak No Evil and you like
yeah,
bleak, dark horror
yeah.
films, it's worth a watch.
Yeah, when I was reading, I read some IMDb reviews on it like before I watched it, and like a lot of people were saying it's gory, and it's not as gory as people were saying on IMDb. I was kind of waiting for the gore. I was like, meh, you know, but there's some good scenes in it. It's a good story. It's a 3. It's a solid 3.
Fair enough.
Speaking of
Chris, have
Speak
you
No
seen this
Evil,
one?
no, I haven't. But I was going to say, speaking of Speak No Evil, they're making an American remake of that.
I know. So that came out like
Really
2 years ago.
curious. I'm really curious if it's going to be, if they're going to keep it as brutal as it was, or if it's going to be like Martyrs, where they're just going to neuter it completely. You know?
Yeah. Mm. That just seems completely unnecessary for how soon as it is, you know?
Well, I'll hope that it's like the Funny Games remake, where I actually preferred the American remake over the original. You know, fingers crossed. But you know, that does sound like a good movie. You said Walk Alone in the Dark.
Coming Home in the Dark.
Coming Home in the Dark on Netflix.
It's
3
decent.
stars. Gotta check that one out. In the meantime, so that we can get to our feature presentation, 1977's The Psychic, I'm going to continue down the terror train with a movie that is not horror, but it does have some horror aspects about it. You'd be surprised that there are some horror aspects about this movie, but it is last year's Dix the Musical. This is a movie about a pair of business rivals discover that they're identical twins and decide to swap places in an attempt to trick their divorced parents to get back together. This is a very, very, very obscene movie. The profanity is over the top, which, if you know anything about me, I don't care for movies where they constantly use profanity. I think that's a sign of weak writing. But, you know, it is what it is. But what horror elements there are in this is their father, played by Nathan Lane, and Nathan Lane is the biggest redeeming factor to this movie. Is that he has swamp boys in a cage, swamp babies, and they're these little monsters that he had rescued from the sewer babies. That's what they're called. He has sewer babies in a cage, and they look like something out of like an old Frank Henenlotter film, or maybe even like a Cronenberg film. They are twisted and demented little puppets, and they're warned that if you get too close to them, they will bite your face off. So that's a little bit of horror, especially if you like 80s mini monster movies. Also, their mother, who is played by Megan Maloney, who you may know from Will and Grace. She lost her vagina. Her vagina fell off of her, and now she keeps it. She keeps her vagina wrapped up in her purse. And at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, to save them from sewer monsters, because they go into the sewer to save the sewer boys, she takes her vagina out of her purse and like releases it into the air, and the thing flaps up. You know, it has wings and eyes, and the whole thing is just a giant mouth, and swoops down and eats a guy's face off. And there's a little bit of blood and gore. So, yeah, there are little monster boys that they find in a sewer, and there's a flying, flesh-eating vagina. I do think that these two things qualify this to be reviewed on this podcast. Other than that, if you like obscene things and you like things that are deliberately offensive, you'll love Dix the Musical. If I was 16 or even 19 or maybe even 25, I would have loved this. It ends with a song called God is a Faggot. It is very obscene, very offensive. I gave it 2.5 stars, and that's only because of the horror elements and only because Nathan Lane is amazing in this. Other than that, I would skip it, but it is streaming on Max. And if you like offensive things and you like comedy musicals, so it reminded me a lot of something that the South Park guys would have done. You know, what are their names? Trey Parker and
Matt Stone.
Matt Stone. This felt very much like something they would have done. It's directed by Larry Charles, who also directed the Borat film. So
Okay.
you know where he's coming from. Bruno, the dictator, but this is way more offensive. Anyways, yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars, and that's only because I thought that the script was weak because it's just nothing but profanity over and over and over, and I'm not a big fan of that. Have either of you heard of this movie or seen it at all?
I have not.
I have. It's been suggested to me quite a few times. I just haven't really got around to it because I have to be in the right frame of mind to sit through a musical. Like sometimes they're like really my shit, and then most of the time they're not. You know, I got to be like in the right frame of mind. But from what I've told, there's something to offend everybody in this movie purposely. So it's made me very curious. So yeah, I'll get around to it sooner or later, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, check it out for the sewer boys and the flying face-eating vagina. But otherwise, let's keep this train chugging along so that we can get to the psychic. And Ruthless Chris, what do you got for us next, baby?
Um, I watched a movie I probably should have saved for a shitfest episode, but boy, did I have a good time with it. Not because it was good. This was
Of course.
so bad. I mean, so bad that it was entertaining. I'm starting to really fall in love with the movies of Uwe Boll, who is known as being one of the worst directors out there. We all had fun with House of the Devil, or no, not House of the Dead, not House of the Devil. That's a much better film than House of the Dead.
We did have fun.
We all had fun with it, and I saw the cast this fucking thing, and I was like, "Who would cast these three people in the same movie together?" And I had to watch it. It stars
Oh, yeah.
as a scientist. It has Christian Slater as a paranormal investigator in a trench coat, and then Stephen Dorff as a secret FBI for the paranormal X-Files kind of thing. This is called Alone in the Dark. This is I think 2009. Yeah, 2005. I watched it on Tubi. It's notoriously known as one of the worst movies ever made. It's got a 1% in Rotten Tomatoes. And what makes this thing so entertaining is every decision made seems blatantly wrong. So unbelievably wrong. Unfathomably wrong to where you just gotta kind of love it. Like, you know, within the first 10 minutes, I was laughing so hard that you would have thought I was watching like South Park or something. Like I was just like, what the fuck? What you have, I'm gonna try to make sense out of this because the movie itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What you have is Christian Slater's a paranormal investigator who used to be part of the secret government subsect that, you know, was like kind of like the X-Files or something that dealt with like paranormal activity. And it kind of gets himself swept up in the middle of this kind of situation. Stephen Dorff plays the guy who's running it now and has his old job, so their heads are, you know, collide, and, you know, they're two wise cracking tough guys with gravelly voices. And then you have Tara Reid playing a scientist. And I hate to say it like that, but fuck me, dude. Come on. Tara Reid that's like that Bond movie where they had who's Charlie Sheen's ex-wife is the scientist. Denise
Richards.
You know, I just couldn't buy it. You know, like it's like just put her hair in up a ponytail and just slap some glasses on it. There is a scene in this. I sent Kelli the scene as I was watching it, where out of nowhere this like fake ass Rob Zombie track drops, and it goes into the weirdest, most hilarious CGI shootout you would ever see. They're in an apartment complex and they're shooting off. They're in an apartment within an apartment complex, shooting off like RPGs and machine guns and throwing grenades and shit around while like really bad nu metal plays. This thing has to be seen to be believed. Like they say that he's like the modern day Ed Wood. I wouldn't give him that because Ed Wood was at least lovable in his real life, where Uwe Boll is just a gigantic fucking douchebag. But god damn, am I entertained by his films. So it's bad, but 1000% watchable and easy to like. Because it's bad, I got to give it 2 stars, but that is with a recommendation to watch, knowing you're going into dog shit. The creatures in this are hilariously bad. The ending of it will make you laugh your ass off, and then it like hits you with a final title song That is so unbelievably hilariously bad. Like there's synthesizers going nuts, and it's about angels crying and like guitar solos everywhere. It's words cannot describe this movie. So yeah, Alone in the Dark, 2 stars, but would recommend.
Fair enough. Kelly, have you seen Alone in the Dark?
No, I don't believe I have, but I kind of want to. I mean, for comedy reasons, obviously.
Sure, absolutely. I'm pretty sure I've never seen Alone in the Dark. If I did, I was probably really drunk. I remember when it came out, my ex wanted to see it, and I was definitely more of a cinema snob, or as kind of uppity folks like to call themselves, a cinephile, and I would not watch anything based on a video game. And I'm glad that I did. Yui Bowl is notorious for these based on video game movies. And I've noticed that Massacre Video is now re-releasing like collector's editions of his movies. They started with Blood Rain, and
Oh God.
yes. And now they've released the one Postal. If you've heard of Postal, I
I've
guess
seen
it's supposed to be
Postal.
super offensive to like everybody, and it's based on like some underground video game that wasn't actually released to the general public. But
It was. I used to have it. It was
Oh,
only for
okay.
computer though. It was super, super offensive.
all right, well, yeah. So Yui Bowl films they're starting to find an audience, especially if Massacre Video is re-releasing his films on collector's edition Blu-rays. But that doesn't mean I want to watch them at all. I did, like you said, we thoroughly enjoyed House of the Dead, but I have no interest in Alone in the Dark. So once again, Chris, we salute you for watching another movie, so we don't have to.
I'll watch it again.
Yeah, I'll actually.
I found out this movie, they gave him $15 million to make this movie, and it blew my fucking mind because it looked like a Sci-Fi Channel original. I'll watch it again. This thing,
I believe
this
it.
thing
Good
was
for you.
So much fun.
Good for you, Chris. Keep up the good work. Killer Kelly Miller, what you got next for us, baby?
Oh, this next movie I watched is a brand new movie. It says 2023, but I think it came out this year. Maybe it had to be at the end of the year. I just now heard about it. This is an Irish movie. It is called Double Blind. Double Blind is when it comes to like experimental drug trials, which is what this is about. That is where neither the experimenter or the participant knows who is receiving the drug. So they get the main girl, her name is Claire. They get her and 6 other participants, and they're all fucking hurting for money, so they join an experimental drug trial where they've got to be there for I think it's 5 days or so. They give them all this drug, and they all notice right away, like, they're all wide the fuck awake. Like, it's going on 2 days and nobody slept yet, and they're like, this can't be right. And then some shit starts somebody starts falling asleep, and I'm not spoiling the movie by any means on this. If you read anything about it, if you fall asleep, you die. You die. So, like, the first girl that falls asleep, like, literally her fucking brain just seemed to have, like, liquefied. It's almost like this Ebola-looking shit. Like, her eyes start melting. It's coming out of her mouth, like, blood everywhere. She's, like, seizing and fucking... It gets real fucking brutal, like, real quick. And when one shit hits the fan there, like, the other participants... Like, that's when they realized, like, we can't fucking fall asleep. One of the guys there is, like, a scientist and shit, too. Like, one of the, and his story unfolds a little, too. It's really cliche. The story is in the sense that, you got all these people that are stuck in this building. They can't go to sleep. Of course, they're starting to there's conspiracies against each other, and it unfolds against like how the characters are acting. Although what sets this apart from, because when I explained to this Chris, he's like, that sounds a lot like Come True. It is very different from Come True, though. Like, in the way that the actors, it's better. This movie fucking rocked. It's gory as shit. Some of the hallucinations come off as, or hallucinations come off as more fucking paranormal in some ways. It's really fucking good. I gave this one 4 stars, and I highly recommend it. Like, when I was halfway through it, and I was like, oh shit, it's like that? It's gonna be like that? Like, at first, like, maybe the first third of the movie is a little slow, but once that first girl dies, dude, shit just hits the fan in this place. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I recommend it. 4 stars all day.
Very, very cool. That sounds like an interesting movie, and I
Mhm.
love Irish horror films, so
Mhm.
I'll have to check it out. Where is it? Where is Double Blind streaming, or is it streaming?
You can rent it on Prime right now. I'm not sure where it will be streaming. I just heard about it and just kind of started digging for it, and I fucking loved it. I'm happy I did. Um, Also the cinematography, the filmmaking, and it's just beautifully shot as well. Like the colors, it's like a very muted, like kind of bluish tone color palette that really brings out the story really well. I noticed that a lot. But yeah, this movie's great. Amazon
Very
Prime, I
cool.
think it was like $6, but I'm sure it'll be streaming eventually somewhere. It's pretty new.
Very cool. How about you, Chris? Have you heard of or seen of Double Blind?
I have not, but she was messaging me the whole time that she was watching it, so I definitely got to check it out. I'm just kind of wait for it to hit a stream or something. Sounds a
Very
lot
cool.
like Come True to me.
It's
Gotcha.
better. It's much better.
Okay.
That's a bold
Well,
statement, my friend.
I don't know.
Double Blind, 4 stars, and you can rent it on Amazon. Definitely sounds like something we need to check out, and I will do that. But first, we've got one last round of movies to talk about. Oh wait, am I still on number two? I'm on number
You're
two.
on
It's
number
my
two.
turn. We're on the second round still before we talk about 1977's The Psychic. But
Slow that train down.
I'm going to talk about 2008's, directed by Frank Henenlotter, Bad Biology. Out of all of Frank Henenlotter's films, this is probably my least favorite, but it's still a lot of fun. In case you don't know much about it, it's about driven by biological excess, a man and a woman search for sexual fulfillment, unaware of each other's existence. Unfortunately, they eventually meet, and the bonding of these two very unusual human beings ends in a god awful love story. Okay, well, that is a very nice way of putting this film. It's body horror, yes. It's really gross, and it's bizarre as hell. Uh, Now, I had originally watched this when I could put up with Cody, which, if you know anything about Cody, it's an illegal streaming service, and
Mhm.
the picture was fuzzy, couldn't really see it, and okay, I really did not like this film at all when I watched it there. Thankfully, Severin has re-released it with a 4K restoration, and it comes in like a book form with all kinds of extras. And since I do love Frank Henenlotter, I bought it, even though I originally watched it and didn't care for it. Thankfully, I bought it, spent the money because it's got a good price tag on it. Because this was a wild ride, and I enjoyed watching the restoration of it. What you basically have here is a woman with a killer vagina and a man with a killer penis, and how they finally find each other, and disastrous, wonderful, crazy, whimsical things happen. There are a lot of twists and turns, all of them weirder than the last. And it's funny that this movie is, besides written by Frank Henenlotter, it's also written by rapper R.A. the Rugged Man, who I'm not particularly familiar with, but I believe he also stars in the movie. There
He does
are
not.
rappers in the movie that I'm not really familiar with as well, make cameos. It's a weird one for sure. It's a weird one for sure. But if you like body horror and you like Frank Henenlotter, this is a horror comedy, and it's bizarre. It's definitely worth a watch if you like bizarre movies and you like bizarre sexual body horror movies. Definitely check out Bad Biology. It's currently not streaming anywhere, but if you can afford a copy, a physical copy from Severin Films, it's definitely worth it. I give it 3 stars. You guys, have you seen Bad Biology?
Yes.
Yeah, I could fill in some blanks on a decent amount of what you were talking about. First off, R.A. the Rugged Man is actually one of Kelly and I's favorite rappers of all time. We've seen him several
Absolutely.
times live, and I've actually had him sign my copy of Bad
And met
Biology.
him. I'll put I'll throw a photo to Pod so we can throw it in the
Yeah,
yeah.
we ended up on stage with him once,
Yeah.
microphones and shit in our hands. Yeah, but yeah, he did help write this one. He
Twice.
does make a cameo, but you do not see his face. He is the guy that's going down on her and then freaks out and leaves. The other rapper that makes a cameo is Vinny Paz from Jedi Mind Tricks. He is in there. Henenlotter is one of my favorite directors. When I found out he did something with R.A. the Rugged Man, I was really excited to see it. It's probably one of my lesser favorite Henenlotter movies, but with that being said, I really, really enjoy it. Henenlotter is like, he is a director that speaks completely to like what I really enjoy in movies and like my trash sensibilities and, like kind of still making it fun and all that. So yeah, I would highly recommend, Bad Biology. I'd give it 3.5. But also to throw this out there, R.A. the Rugged Man is right now trying to finance his next movie that he's got a Kickstarter going for called Suicide Disco. So if you're interested in seeing that, go help him out over there on Patreon or on Kickstarter or whatever. You can find it at his socials.
Yeah.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on Bad Biology?
Dude, I mean, if you know anything about Henenlotter, it's that sort of it's gory, it's like eroticism, it's fucking weird. It's a fun one. Like, what can I say that Chris didn't already say? And yeah, I'm a huge R.A. the Rugged Man fan. But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing his new movie.
What kind of stars would you give Bad Biology?
Probably 3.5.
Yeah. Sounds like all around 3 or 3.5. But if you've got any interest in this, I'd say order yourself that Severin 4K UHD because it's well worth the money. In the meantime, now we're ready for one last round before we get to the Psychic 1977's Giallo. Hey, Chris, start us off, baby.
So I went and revisited a movie I had seen when it first came out, and I haven't revisited it since. I remember it being fun and kind of one of those weird product of its time movies. And that's The Midnight Meat Train. This came out in 2008 by Ryuichi Katamura. I actually was a big fan of this man's movies before he started doing movies in America. He made a movie called Versus that when I lived at this small art commune called the Collingwood Art Center, some of my people that lived there and we'd get together almost like weekly and watch this really weird movie he made. It was like this Japanese gangster movie that had zombies and like the Matrix elements. It was just like this dumb, fun kind of thing. So it was cool to see that, he kind of made it stateside. This movie was a huge flop when it came out. And I remember it just kind of being kind of weird. So I was like, I saw it in Tubi and I was like, you know what, I'm going to revisit this. As a pre-famous Bradley Cooper, at the time, no one really knew who he was. He had done like Wet Hot American Summer and a couple other things. And what you have is a photographer who's trying to get like a gallery of these photos put together, but they're going to be like gritty nightlife of New York. And through trying to get these photos, he stumbles across a man he believes is murdering people on a train at night. And that man is played by Vinnie Jones, who a lot of people remember from like the British gangster movies like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. He's a very menacing kind of character. This was a fun revisit. It's kind of silly. It's definitely not a movie that would be like getting made today. It's definitely a product of its time. It relies really heavily on a lot of poor CGI. I'll give it that. There's a lot of CGI blood, a lot of like eyeball gags flying out. Like the killer hits people with a hammer and like their eyes fly out, shit like that. But it was a lot of fun, and it is like it's kind of a turn your brain off popcorn flick. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's really not a lot to it. There's a man on a subway who's murdering people at night, and they're trying to figure out how they're getting away with it on this subway car and what's going on with that. I had a lot of fun with it. It was a good revisit. It kind of reminded me of movies like End of the Line or the UK version of Creep or like Raw Meat, where like something nefarious is going on in the sewer lines or the underground subway lines. I liked it. I had fun with it. This was probably the best movie I watched this week besides our main entree. So I would definitely recommend Midnight Meat Train. I give it 3.5 stars. definitely enjoyed it. Definitely would recommend it. And it's like on everything. I watched it on Tubi, but it's on Freebie and everything else.
Very cool. Kelly, what are your thoughts on Midnight Meat Train?
I enjoyed it. I mean, like Chris said, I never remember that Bradley Cooper was in this one. You know, like I don't even think of him when I think of this movie. Like that's how much, like how not well known he was at the time.
And Brooke Shields.
Oh yeah, dude, I own this movie, and it has been a minute since I watched it. You're right. Maybe this does deserve a rewatch from me as well. But I always remember it being pretty decent. I think 3.5 is a good score. I'd give that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Midnight Meat Train. I originally seen it during a 24-hour horror movie marathon before it was released to the general public. Got a lot of buzz there, and I remember that. Doesn't it end with like some sort of weird underground society or monsters that he was delivering the dead bodies to?
Obviously, I mean, this is old enough to where we can just do spoilers. Yeah. What they're doing is that they're quelling demons. Like the train is conducted by a demon in a human form, and towards the end of the night, it goes down like a different tube that takes them to hell, and demons come and take all the bodies that this dude's been harvesting. And it's like one of those things where, kind of like Cabin in the Woods, where if we keep them appeased, they leave us alone, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like the really weird twists and turns, and that's based on a Clive Barker story. The director, I thought, did a really great job with the source material. I'm a big fan of it. I gave it 5 stars, so I'm just gonna stick with that because I put 5 stars on Letterboxd. I'm not sure what I was thinking at that time, but I'll have to revisit it to note why I gave it 5 stars.
Yeah.
Anyways, Midnight Meat Train streaming everywhere. 3 stars, 5 stars, definitely worth a watch. Anyways, before we get to the psychic, Killer Kelly Miller, one last time for us, will you please?
Let's get into the only Giallo film I watched besides our main feature. Well, not the only one I'm going to talk about. I also watched Deep Red and started another one but fell asleep. We'll talk about that next week. But this is Stage Fright, 1987. Michel Soavi, who also did Cemetery Man. He was the right-hand man of Dario Argento for a lot of the 70s and 80s, and this was his first attempt at a movie of his own. I think it was before Cemetery Man. This is a theater production. They're putting on a play. It's a quite erotic play. Yeah. One of the actresses injures her ankle, and rather than going to a hospital, she goes to like the closest place, which happens to be a mental institution, to try to get checked out for her injured ankle. While they're there, a patient escapes the mental hospital, Irving Wallace, and climbs into the back of their car. Well, as they go back to finish the play, news is breaking out of the escaped mental patient, and fucking the dickhead of a director that they have gives zero fucks about what's going on. He just wants to finish the fucking play, so he locks everybody inside. So everybody's locked in there. The keys are lost. And then, of course, they're locked inside with fucking Irving Wallace, the serial killer. The first kill happens before they even get there. Nice pickaxe through the fucking face without telling you too much. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys I'm sure both of you guys have seen this movie. They lose the keys. So basically this theater production, everybody in there is getting picked off one by one by this fucking insane serial killer. I do want to say at the end, like the scene that he has at the end with everybody posed on stage. This movie's great, man. I mean, it's fuck. Dude, the owl mask. I love how the killer wears an owl mask. There's one point in the movie where he's just like straight killing on stage, and they're like, "No, this isn't part of the fucking play." And the director's like, still not cutting, Dude, this movie's got great gore, great owl. It's a good Giallo movie. It's a later one, but I fucking love this one. I enjoyed it. What do you guys think? I gave it 4 stars. It's on Shudder, by the way, if you want to watch it.
Yeah, this Giallo film, Stage Fright, I'd always wanted to see it, and when it finally found it on streaming, I was definitely blown away. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the cinematography, and like you said, that owl mask is kind of iconic, among people that are familiar with Giallo films. I'm a big fan. I'm going to give it 4 stars as well.
Mhm.
And I might have to go rewatch it. Make sure you don't mistake it for the American, I think it's either American or Canadian Stage Fright, which is about like teens at a theater camp and there's a slasher, but it's also a musical and it's really bad. Make sure you watch the original Giallo Stage Fright.
Speaking of music, the music in this movie also makes the movie it makes it more great than it would be without. That's absolutely for sure. The music and the kind of dance scenes in the play. Chris, what do you think about this movie? What do you think?
Yeah, when she messaged me about this, like I had to be like, now are you watching the 1980s Giallo or are you watching the musical? Because I was like, I have very different opinions. The musical is like Glee as a slasher. It has its audience. I own a copy, but it's not really for me. The 80s one is a classic, and what I really like about it is it has a lot of that sleaze to it. Like this one's a sleazy one. Like I think that's what was missing with our Giallo tonight. Like I really enjoyed ours tonight, but that one was much more on the classier route, minus the sleaze. And this one's
Nice and sleazy.
very sleazy.
Easy sleaze.
The owl mask is very cool. It kind of feels like a companion piece to opera, you know. I definitely would recommend it. I liked it a lot. I'd give it 4.
I think this one could actually be worth its own episode if we decided to someday, but it's good. It's a fun one for sure. Highly recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out Stage Fright. It's pretty much streaming everywhere. Tubi, Shudder, Amazon, so on and so forth. And we all gave it 4 stars. Definitely worth the watch. In the meantime, we got one last movie to talk about before we get to 1977's The Psychic. And that's me. I'm going to be talking about last year's holiday horror film that just dropped on Netflix. It's Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. If you're not familiar with it, it's about after a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. Now, I really wanted to love this movie because the gore is awesome, the kills are amazing, but that's all it has going for it. Once again, similar to Dick's the Musical, there's way too much profanity in this movie for me, and which I always attribute to weak writing. And also the storyline, the whole story arc is just so cliche that if you've seen any 90s teen slasher movie, it's like it becomes redundant. Or if you've even seen like 80s slasher movies, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. But if you can stomach seeing the same regurgitated cliched story arcs and the weak dialogue, the kills and the gore are well worth it. And it's streaming on Netflix, which I think most people probably have Netflix or access to Netflix. So it's definitely worth a watch. And I give it 3.5 stars. Now, I know both of you have seen Thanksgiving, right? What are your thoughts on it?
I liked it. I thought it really picked up in the second half. I was kind of, I don't know. At first, I thought it. Me and Chris seen it in the theater last year, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
Like the day before Thanksgiving.
Yep. Yeah, I liked it.
I really enjoyed it too. I would agree with what she said. I really didn't enjoy the first half very much. I think when it comes to Eli Roth, his weak spot is dialogue and making likable characters. I thought that there was nobody redeemable in it, so there was no one to really attach yourself or really care about in the thing, you know. But I did think that the character design of the slasher was cool. I think when it like really got down to business, it was cool. I really like what it's going to do for horror as well, because they're showing that you can have an edgy, bloody slasher and it can make money. And these are the kinds of things that will make studios take risks on other movies like this, you know, between this and like Terrifier even making money and Skinamarink making money and all this shit. You know, people are going to be like, fuck it, make your horror movie. So I like that aspect of it. You know, Eli Roth's always been kind of hit or miss with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the ones I liked more, but I liked it more in the second half. I think the first half really just kind of drags, but I would recommend it. I did enjoy it. I'd probably give it 3.5.
I think that is what we gave it. I gave it. Yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 all around. Like I said, if you got Netflix, definitely worth a watch for the blood and gore. And if you don't mind the cliched sort of story arc, definitely enjoy this one. But the once again, the cast in this, especially the older members of the cast, are pretty mind blowing. Patrick Dempsey, Gina Gershon, uh,
Hmm.
Rick Hoffman. It's a pretty stellar cast, really solid cast. So yeah, 3.5 from everybody here. And on that note, we're gonna get to our feature presentation. Do 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 do, and that is
Superman?
1977's, directed by Lucio Fulci, The Psychic.
And now for our feature presentation.
Oh my goodness gracious gravy. I love this one. What a fun movie and what a delightful classic giallo. Now, one of the things, first off, that I love about this, that the original title is Murder to the Tune of the Seven Black Note.
Hmm.
What a great giallo title. I wish they would have kept that title. That would have been so much more poetic, which is great to know about giallo, Italian horror films, and this is so on point with that, with the black glove killer. And
Hmm.
I'm glad that it didn't go for the Dario Argento, which it's kind of like his trademark, those oversaturated colors. This is definitely just more of a Lucio Fulci, but he's a little pulled back. He's not as sleazy as he usually is in most of his more well-known films. If you don't know anything about The Psychic, it's about a clairvoyant woman discovers a skeleton in the wall of her husband's house and seeks to find out the truth about what happened to the victim. I got excited about this film being released as a collector's edition Blu-ray from Sefrin, and I bought it right away. But it was kind of a hefty price, and I remember loving the cover art as a kid, but I'd never watched it. Now it's streaming for free on Tubi, so you can watch it too. But it's a great movie. You guys, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah.
I really, go on.
Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It had like the thriller element it had to it was like a mystery, like a Hitchcock. It had like very Hitchcockian feel, but at the same time it was, giallo. With the killer, it was a little more. No, I can't say sleazier, because it wasn't sleazier, not at all. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like I said, it sent me down a rabbit hole of giallo this weekend, and it was really inspirational to me. Everything from the cinematography to the colors that are really they're uh, kind of like cliche to giallo movies, like those real deep reds and the muted blues. And yeah, what do you got to say, Chris?
I think, in the grand scope of like giallo movies, I think this one actually felt more subdued
Mm-hmm.
than especially a lot of the, like, even when it came to the color palette, like it did have like the rich colors, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't seem like they were just drenching themselves in the atmospheric lighting that like Dario
No.
would do or like Lucio would do in later movies. I mean, this is the same guy that made New York Ripper.
Yeah.
And that shit was like the sleaziest trash bag of, fucking vileness that you'd ever see. And this one had like a certain elegance to it.
Mm-hmm. Like a
Like it
Hitchcock. Yeah.
like a Hitchcock or, just it just had an elegance to it, It almost actually reminded me of a giallo version of like a old Roman Polanski movie or something. Or not Roman
I can
Polanski,
see.
uh shit. Anyway, um but I think it had like a lot of class to it, and the way it told its story, I thought it was really interesting that the way that they showed her psychic powers, I think that was really cool. Like
Mhm.
the way they did it, like in camera, and they did it kind of in a tangible way, as opposed to, like flashes or something. I thought for especially how gory the opening scene was, I thought I was like in store for more of a Lucio Fulci style
Yeah.
bloodbath. What you normally would get from him, and you really don't get that here. Like, yes, there's some gore, and there's some stuff to it, but This one's much more of a mystery, like almost like a detective tale, you know, like it's like almost like a procedural that unfolds as the movie goes on. I really enjoyed it. This is my first time seeing it, by the way.
Me too, actually. This is the
Yeah,
first time I've seen this movie as well.
It's the first time I watched it as well, and I was really excited about it because, like I was saying earlier, the artwork I remember seeing on in the video store shelves as a kid, and I loved it so much, but I never rented it. And now I'm glad that it's out for everybody to witness and everybody to enjoy. I kind of got the twist pretty shortly into it when I was like, oh, she's actually seeing her own murder.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler show, so I'm letting you know. And you know, if you're any fan of horror, any fan of suspense or thrillers or giallo films, you're gonna figure it out too pretty soon into it. But it doesn't matter. It's still a very enjoyable film. And I also thought it was interesting. Shortly into the film starting, you know, as it says, the music is very important to this. And it's funny because when you hear the music, everybody that's seen Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill is going to recognize it right away, but they're not going to be able to place it.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino was actually, this is a movie that he loves, and he was going to do a remake with Bridget Fonda. It never happened, but he has used this movie in Kill Bill a couple of times, and so you're going to notice that right away. But it's also weird watching that especially unusual for Italian films at this time. The dialogue is in English.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't picked up on the time when I originally watched this film last week. Usually it was just subtitled, you know, it would be done in Italian, then subtitled. So this was really something different for the time. And besides that, it seems like it's very popular in India. You know, there's been
Really,
remakes of this multiple times in India. So it's weird, like how big this is around the world. The Psychic is around the world, and now we're just catching up to it because it's streaming on Shudder right now, and I'm glad that it is. You know, everybody gets to enjoy it, and you know, I really loved it. I really enjoyed this as a giallo film. I just wish that they had kept the original title of Murder to the Tune of the Seven Black Notes, because I believe that like that is even a reference to that music that's played throughout the film that Quentin Tarantino fell in love with so much. I'd say definitely check this film out if you haven't already. You guys got anything else to say about The Psychic?
That twist at the end. You know, usually you can predict. I didn't predict that. Did you guys see that coming? Like, I didn't actually. I was like, oh, you know, like I did maybe a little prior to them coming out with it in the actual movie, but it was, I don't know. I was all for like, no, man, she totally seen what happened inside this fucking room. Who's the girl that's buried in the wall? Like, I was all all about it, you know. But yeah, I didn't really see the twist. Got me. Twist got me at the end, is what I'm trying to say.
I'll say this. I think the only reason Germ and I got it ahead of time is because we have seen all the movies that have come out post. Had we seen it when this movie came out, you know, now that when we wouldn't be conditioned to all the twists and turns of all the movies that maybe have been influenced by this, maybe it wouldn't have been so obvious. But I think that's the reason I was able to pick up on it. But yeah, I mean, I did see it coming a little bit. I wish they would have definitely kept the original name. I always like when the Giallos have like the really elegant long name, like what was it, like Four Flies for, you know, like they always had these long, like elegant, like titles that I'm sure sounded very poetic in Italian. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this is Lucio Fulci at like maybe some of his most subdued.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch some of his later works where you're watching people get their lips ripped off by tarantulas and wooden stakes been put through women's eyes, and
or Donald Duck voiced fucking
Donald Duck voice killers with switchblades in New York while your dudes are sticking their toes in vaginas. You know, I mean, I think this is a little bit more of a classy affair.
Sleazy sleaze. Not even sleazy.
At least for a giallo. So yeah, I'd recommend it. I really enjoy it. I give it 4.
Mhm.
4 stars. I give it 3.5 stars, and definitely worth a watch. Highly recommended. Kelly, what do you give The Psychic?
I gave it 4 stars. I'm pretty sure I put 4 on Letterboxd. I really enjoyed it. It inspired me to watch more like it, so absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are so many movies with great titles like The Bird with Crystal Plumage or The Cat o' Nine Tails or Four Flies on Grey Velvet, Don't
That's
Torture a
what I was looking
Duckling, Lizard in a Woman's Skin, and the list goes on and on. So they should have kept the original title, but other than that, The Psychic is a great watch for the mysterious. It's like more of a murder mystery, twists and turns, and it's a very interesting watch and highly recommended. So check it out on Shudder, check it out all over the internet because I think it's streaming on Tubi as well. So you've got no reason not to.
Mhm.
It's streaming for free on Tubi. But with that being said, do you guys have any final words for the people out there in real Vile land?
Hopefully we'll see you in Chicago. It'll be a good time. We'll all be there. Hopefully, you said hi to us. So yeah.
Yeah, when this drops, we're about a little under a week away from all of us being in Chicago for Ruthless Pro Wrestling Presents Animosity. There are still tickets on sale, so go check that out. Come say hi to all of us. We'll be happy to say hi or take a picture or whatever. So come enjoy yourselves. Hope to see you in Chicago.
I'll have stickers. Not a lot, but I
Stickers.
need to get more. Come say hi.
I like it. I love it. Give me more of it. Stickers it is. And it's going to be real vile when Ruthless Pro Wrestling comes to Chicago and all 4 of us will be together. And on that note, one last thing. If you guys got any final words for the people out there in real vile land?
Easy sleaze.
Watch something shitty. You'll do something better for your life.
Isn't that a John Waters quote?
I don't know. Maybe.
And I'm going to say, keep it creepy, keep it spooky, keep it real vile forever. God bless America and send nudes.
Woo!